Okay, today is Wednesday, April 1st, 2026. The time is now promptly 3 p.m. I'm going to call this council work session to order. So the first order of business is a declaration of conflicts of interest. Is our city attorney on the call?
Yes, I am. Good afternoon, Mayor and councilors. Can you hear me?
Yes.
Wonderful. I apologize that I'm not joining you in person. I'm a little under the weather and I didn't want to get people sick. This is the time to declare conflicts of interest. If a person has a potential conflict of interest, meaning an agenda item may have a financial benefit or detriment to them, a relative, or a business they are associated with, they must disclose that potential conflict of interest, and they may then participate in a discussion and vote. If a person has an actual conflict of interest because an agenda item has a financial benefit or detriment to them, a relative, or a business they are associated with, they must declare that conflict of interest and they may not discuss or vote on the matter. An exception to this relates to Senate Bill 983, which was adopted in 2025 by the Oregon legislature. It permits local public officials to participate in discussions and vote on city budgets, even if the budget includes compensation for themselves or a relative, provided that they announce that actual conflict of interest first. Then they may participate in the discussion and vote. At this time, does anyone, after reviewing the agenda, any of the counselors wish to declare a potential or actual conflict of interest?
Cindy? Council President Chilton? No. Councilor Hubbard? Councilor Gunderson? No. Okay, I do. I have, for the record, my spouse is employed by the city as a police officer because the budget compensation and benefits for city's position. I am announcing an actual conflict under ORS 244120 as amended by Senate Bill 983, Oregon Laws 2025, Chapter 466. I may participate in discussion and vote on the adoption and local budget after making this disclosure. Thank you, Ashley. All right, we are going to move on to the clearing confusion and setting the facts straight. We have two items. The first one is inaccurate identity of text message records. At a city council work session during visitor comment, a citizen made a comment about text message between Chief Brian Greenway and officers Freddie Cutright and Dylan Gaston that was released as a public record. Because the record was generated from Officer Cutright's phone, Officer Cutright's name does not appear on the record. The citizen who submitted the visitor comment appeared to believe that Officer Gaston made the comments critical of her. In reviewing the text exchange closer and confirming with the source of records, it was Officer Cutright who made those critical statements, not Officer Gaston. Officer Cutright is no longer works for the city of St. Helens. The second one is, who does the city attorney represent? At the March 18th, 2026 city council work session before visitor comment, a citizen raised the question about who the city attorney represents and reports to. The city attorney represents the city as a municipal corporation and reports directly to the city council. The city attorney representation includes representing the elected officials, the city administration, and the city staff in the performance of their duties to the city, acting in their official capacity. The city attorney supports the legal service needs that arise through the management of the city of St. Helens. The city attorney does not represent any one elected official or employee. The city attorney does not represent any members of the public. The city attorney represents the city as an organization. Was there any other, I'm going to look over to Chief Smith and Lieutenant Treat. Were there any other additional public comments from the last meeting that you wanted to address?
Yes, there was.
Go ahead.
It was mentioned at the last, I believe, work session. The city of Scappoose has 24 hours and they since been in contact with the Scappoose Police Department to verify it's not accurate. They don't have 24 hours a day. So that's not getting this coverage. In a snapshot, it's also kind of comparing apples and oranges because of our call volume. Our minimum staffing is 2 officers per shift, while the city of Scappoose has 1 when they actually have an officer on duty. And to give a small glimpse into that disparity, in 2025, the St. Helens Police Department responded to 17,306 calls for service, while the Scappoose Police Department responded to 7,481 calls for service. So we're responding to more than twice the number of calls for service. And to break that down even further, City of Scappoose responded to 135 total disturbances and fights. During that same year, we responded to 608. We responded to 44 individuals suffering a medical emergency due to an overdose. They responded to 8 of those. We responded to 99 calls of sexual assaults. They responded to 18. We responded to 605 welfare checks involving citizens that might be in danger. They responded to 181. So our staffing levels are as a result of our call activity, and I want to stress that our call activity is much higher than the city of Scappoose. And there was an additional public comment that was also inaccurate. Lieutenant Tree is going to address.
There was a comment regarding hours and how many hours an employee worked in a day. And I think the number was 96. The issue is our system.
96 hours in a day.
Yeah, that's not possible. It's different categories. So there may be 96 hours of categories within a day. For example, FTO pay. You'll have 10 hours of FTO pay at 5% on top of their 10 hours worked, on top of 8 hours of holiday pay, on top of, you should say, Thanksgiving or Christmas per the collective bargaining agreement. If they work, it's double overtime that day. So there's different categories, which makes it look like they're working 40 or putting in for 40 or 50 hours of work when they're not.
Okay, so it's just a misunderstanding of how to read the schedule or documents.
It's a misunderstanding of what the different categories represent and mean. It's not just hours. It may be hours at a percent. For example, 5% for FTO pay, you have to put in for FTO pay when you have recruit, 10 hours at 5%. It's not 10 hours pay.
Is there any other?
No.
All right. So now we're going to go into visitor comment. Now is the time for visitor comments. The visitor comment period is an essential part of local government meetings. Please address your comments to the mayor and council members. The city council will take all input in consideration. Please limit your share to 3 minutes or less. In observant to Oregon open meeting laws, this isn't a time for dialogue, but rather a time for us to listen to you. Responses to visitor comments, if needed, will be published in the next city council regular session packet. Please provide the please provide your contact information on the sign-in sheet in the back of the room. And when you come up, please state your name for the record. And with that, we'll take the first public. And you are the first one here.
Yep, first one here, first in line. All right, good afternoon. My name is Tyler Hills, resident of the city of St. Helens, and I'm also the current president of AFSCME Local 1789, which represents City of St. Helens employees. We're here to express our strong objection to the proposed furloughs, which may amount to a 20% reduction in pay. A wage cut of this magnitude is deeply detrimental to employees and will create significant hardship for them and their families. In addition, this will cause drastic reductions in services for our citizens, including parks, library, recreation, and essential functions that happen daily at City Hall, utility billing, and municipal courts. Many of these services are utilized by vulnerable citizens, families, and children, and will affect the quality of life in St. Helens. A service impact this large will cause the city to essentially be ineffective at best and reduce nearly every service offered to residences and businesses alike. Ramifications of these furloughs to employees extend far beyond immediate financial strain. For example, employees nearing retirement will be especially impacted, as Oregon PERS calculates retirement benefits based on the final 3 years of earnings. These furloughs will have a lasting, lifelong effect on employees for the rest of their retirement, with no opportunity for them to recover to stand what they lose. While we recognize that the city is facing a serious financial crisis, we also see clear areas where cost-saving measures could be implemented to help mitigate the need for such drastic furloughs. Currently, the St. Helens Police Department accounts for approximately 49% of the general fund. Any adjustment to this department's services or budget would therefore have a substantial impact. We want to be clear that we support our police officers. However, it can't be overlooked that this department represents the largest share of the city's general fund expenditures and must be part of the solution. Under the current proposal, furlough-related savings for fiscal year 2027 are estimated at $680,000, broken down as follows: unrepresented employees, $418,000. AFSCME employees, $203,000, and police employees, $67,000. For a department that makes up nearly half of the general fund, contributing about 10% of the furlough savings raises concerns about equity and shared responsibility in this situation. We understand that furloughs may increase police overtime costs under the current 410 schedule. However, there appears to be an opportunity to reduce overtime by returning to a 5/8 schedule, which was successfully used for many years. If maintaining the 410 schedule is essential, then the council must consider difficult but necessary decisions, such as reducing 24-hour coverage, as the current model places too great a burden on the general fund. Additional cost-saving measures could include reducing police fleet size, delaying equipment replacements, delaying firearm replacements, limiting take-home vehicles. A 10% reduction in this department's budget alone can result in approximately $500,000 savings, merely matching what everybody else is inputting to this. Other immediate cost-saving measures by city council can and should include a reduction in council meetings to once per month, reducing attorney expenses by no longer having the attorney at every meeting, and a reduction in counselor stipends to match the percentage employee salaries will be reduced. Simple reductions like this add up. Avoiding these difficult decisions is not a viable option. Continuing to overlook significant areas of potential savings is not sustainable. The key takeaway here is this: if these opportunities for cost reduction are readily apparent, why are they not being fully explored? Thanks for your time.
Next public comment.
Robin Toski, City of St. Helens. I'm here today to speak on behalf of keeping the library services, all of its staff and all of its hours unchanged. The library is a small part of the general fund budget. The library has historically stayed within the budget given to them by the city. Why are we punishing the part of the city services that met or exceeded expectations in the wake of this budgeting crisis? In our divided, unequal, and commercialized societies, libraries stand out as among the last truly public institutions, providing access without financial, social, or physical barriers. Public libraries make a unique contribution to promoting individual and collective flourishing throughout the communities they serve. Libraries bridge the digital divide, the disparity between those with access to technology such as internet and those without it. With your proposed cut, you're cutting these people off of services for an entire day of the week, and that is just the start. A library is an essential service. Police and fire are an essential service. Parks are an essential service. These are all essential in the health, happiness, and well-being of the people that live here. We elected you to be the caretakers and guardians of our way of life. I'm asking you to guard my essential services in a fair and equitable way. The police have grown way out of proportion for the size of town that we live in and for the crime statistics that we have. The real stats, not the inflated arbitrary ones. Close the libraries, close the parks, close the park and rec. We have a nice piece of geography, a dot on the map patrolled by the police. That is not a city. The shortfall in the general fund is because of police overspending with the complete disregard for the scheduling that could have fixed the whole big mess that we sit here discussing today. No to more tax dollars, no to fear mongering, yes to supporting the men and women in blue, but not at the cost of everything else. Council, I ask you to respectfully do the hard work that you were elected to do. Thank you.
Next public comment.
Chief Lopez. Background. The city council is responsible for running the city. Anything goes wrong, it's their fault. They all have only one vote. So the council votes on something. The mayor's job is to pass this information and requirement to the city administrator, who is to see that it's done. If it's not done, city council has to see why. If it's not done, the city council should instruct the administrator to fix it. If it's not fixed, the city council is still responsible and to make changes maybe to the administrator. Second part, the city administrator and the mayor are the connecting links from the city administration to the council. The council's president talks to the mayor, mayor talks to the administrator. The other direction, the administrator talks to the mayor. Now, if this happens not in the council meeting, the mayor is not legally allowed to talk to the council because that would be a serial communication or serial meeting, which is not allowed. So remember, city council is responsible for everything, no matter who does it wrong or who does it right. The only communication link is between the mayor and the administrator. It's a one-way communication by law, unless it's done here in the council room. So when we start pointing fingers, remember where the picture is.
Next. Next public comment.
Thank you. My name is Grant Toskey, and by way of background regarding financial analytics, I worked for Dun & Bradstreet and S&P for 35 plus years. At D&B, I reviewed and analyzed risk ratings, credit risk financials, and the financial strength of corporations and municipalities for 20 plus years. I've spent 30 hours reviewing the city's audits for the past 6 years and budgets for the last 6 years. I've looked at the year-to-date 2026 financial reports, and I've also reviewed and analyzed public records regarding police overtime, hours worked, and payments for July through December 2026. Regarding the general fund, the police department, as has already been mentioned, is nearly 50% of the general fund. It also stands out highest in excess spending. Excess meaning spending outside of the budget given to them and adopted by the council. For example, the fiscal year 2026 report shows that the police department year to date has spent $284,000 in overtime, which is 96% of its full year overtime allocation. They're on pace to overspend by $268,000 for the year. The latest financial report also estimates unapproved overspending for the full year fiscal 2026 for the police department should exceed $540,000. This is nearly 2/3 of the year-end general fund deficit estimated by the finance director in her mid-year financial report. Considering options on the table today, one consideration not on the agenda is to simply adopt a guide that all police overtime stop immediately. The police have no approved overtime left for this year and are in excess. The amount of money saved in Q4 if police overtime is cut to zero is estimated to be $142,000. This will reduce the savings burden being asked from the other departments who have historically and continue to remain within their budgets. The solution is simple. Stop spending money that is unapproved and unappropriated. Staff and provide services at the levels the budget provide for. An additional concern is the still pending audit for 25 fiscal year end. S&P reduced your rating in 2024. And why are audits important? Well, if you look at 2023, the audit showed that the police department underspent their budget by $369,000. In 2024, the audit showed that the police department overspent their budget by $431,000. That's a $708,000 swing and overspending in 1 year. It's important that this year's audit be completed and distributed so that the actual revenue and expenses are correct and the city truly knows what its ending fund balance was. Thank you for the time.
Stephen Toskey, citizen of St. Helens. The city council is supposed to run our government per our charter. And I am asking that our city councilors' voices be heard. It's time that we hear your voices. It's time that you step up and start running this government. That's your charge. Let's talk today about today's discussion regarding getting the spending under control pending the budget meetings this year. Our city administrator had on the agenda cutting non-essential services and quote. I think the library is an essential service. The rec is essential service. I don't think you agree as counselors that these are non-essential services. And we easily have enough funding to get our city under control and as long as we manage our budget. Today's the day to talk about it. By the math alone, our police department is spending $47,000 a month on overtime. It has no budget for it. It's just spending the money. And it's on track to be 500,000 over the budget this year. Literally just spending money, no budget, just spending. I ordered the records on the overtime, and I told you I would talk to you about them. On the 6,332 hours of documented overtime, here are the kind of beginning to the end of documented overtime. Shift coverage, 1,624 hours. Extended shift coverage, 934 hours. Holiday pay, 880 hours. Training, $700. Overtime call out, night shift, 257 hours. So the overtime is simply due to scheduling. It's not due to detective work. It's not due to pedophiles. Essentially, detective work is 131 hours of overtime, which is right next to fleet management, 120. So today is the day where I think the city council needs to say to all departments, you need to get your budgets in line and stop spending beyond your budget. And you need to say to the chief of police to stop allowing overtime that is not in strict accordance and necessary with the collective bargaining agreement. We have a collective bargaining agreement with the officers, which I recently ordered and looked at. It calls for 8-hour shifts. And one of the biggest issues that we have going right now is the officers want to work 10-hour shifts. But we know from the investigation that was done, it's the failure to implement the 8-hour shifts that's costing our people a lot of money. And it's time for us to say, enough is enough. Get your budgets in line. We have the tools to do it. Let's hear you say it. Thank you.
Public comment?
Brady Preheim. I couldn't agree more with the gentleman sitting behind me that was here from the union. That it is not fair to place the burden of balancing the budget on the employees of the city who have done nothing but an admirable job and should not be penalized for your lack of action, which you've known this day is coming for years and took no action. And it is not responsible to hold them accountable. And I also agree with them that, yeah, you should definitely cut your stipend. Shouldn't be cut, it should be eliminated. You are one of the only cities in the entire state that gets a stipend. Remove it. It's that simple. And I know that these are in our overall budget, small amounts of money, but it sends a message that if everyone else is being cut, you should absolutely be cut. And meeting one day, thank God. Yeah, go ahead. Less time for you to do bad stuff. So yeah, meet once a day. Who cares? That'd be great. Go ahead and do it. Also, as far as cost cutting, cancel the stupid community day. You're going to spend $10,000 just paying Treadway in addition to the cost of staff and so forth. Yeah, we don't need it when you're in this situation. Cut that as well. And again, as Mr. Toski and the other gentleman mentioned, 410s doesn't work. Works for the officers. It doesn't work for anyone else. Switch back to your 5/8 shifts. 24 doesn't divide by 10. That's pretty simple. Today is also April 1st is the beginning of Domestic Assault Awareness Month. And I will have the executive director of Safe Columbia County on my show on Friday. Hopefully the county read a proclamation this morning. Hopefully you guys will do the same. Might be difficult for Jennifer to do that since she has a domestic assault person on her little FADOS team, but oh well, I guess we can, that's just one more hypocrisy that she has. I also do have a couple of questions about, since you're now answering questions during public comment, I'd like to know exactly what laws the police are allowed to violate. Do they get fired for speeding? Do they get fired for violating an ordinance? A DUI, 5 DUIs, still in a candy bar? At what point in time does breaking the law become an item for which someone is disciplined or terminated? And so I'd like to hear the answer to that. And finally, I did get your email. Thank you for responding. And, but I will say that it was really one of the most unprofessional emails that you could possibly send as an elected official. Fact of the matter is, Kohai is media, and I am the only media, whether you like it or not, in this town. That's the reality.
Public comment, please.
Hi, Matt Kanaga, St. Helens residents. Many of the people you hear from tonight are probably going to demand that you figure out how to keep the library open. I agree with them, but I'll leave it to them to explain why. I'd like to bring up something else that is on your plate, but that you haven't yet spoke about publicly. This year is America's semi-quincentennial anniversary, and Independence Day is also on a Saturday. The exuberance is likely to be something we haven't seen since 1976. Historically, the city of St. Helens has excused criminal fireworks displays in our neighborhoods, even though they've been illegal in Oregon for over 50 years. It's gotten worse the last few years. More people have put on shows and the shows have gotten larger. Last year, my roof and yard and cars were covered with clay and plastic and paper from illegal fireworks. The New Year's shows this year were larger in the past, and there were even several shows this year for the Super Bowl. Vancouver outlawed all fireworks displays in 2015. Portland outlawed them in 2022. Eugene, Bend, Milwaukee, the Dalles have also outlawed all private fireworks. Oregon strengthened their rules this year and increased the penalties. I'm suggesting that the city put out announcements that this year these decades-old laws will be enforced. That would give people time to plan their weekends. This is the time of year that people make their 100-mile journey to spend significant amounts of money, often thousands of dollars, to procure illegal explosives and smuggle them back into Columbia County and St. Helens. Let them know that this year they should save their money. Let them know that this year the city will be out confiscating explosives and issuing fines for dangerous and illegal behavior. Thanks.
Is public comment? Do we have anybody? Not right now, Steve, not right now.
The ORS does not say how many times you can talk.
Steve,
It doesn't
please.
say you can talk 3 minutes. And that's what I'm doing. Recently on
We did have a minute and
The,
50 left.
local media, we've had cartoons about our
50 left.
mayor, which I find most interesting and also enjoyable. The last one, which I really enjoyed, showed the mayor driving not a four-wheel, but a tracked armed vehicle into a number of things, city hall, police station, library, etc. What it did not show, interesting, we have problems, the city hall, the library, the police station, the waterfront, the water tank. And this picture shows the mayor only fighting these problems. The mayor didn't create any of these problems. All these problems were here before she got elected. It does not show any of the city standing in awe of this. It does not show in these cartoons any of the council helping. So this anger that's getting in our town, people are pointing fingers, making cartoons, yelling at things. Let's look at all the facts and what's exactly happening and realize some of these problems started long ago and now we're suffering with them. So it's time to cool down and have some cool heads in this place. City council, and it's time for people to do their jobs or get removed. Thank you.
Thank you, Steve. Right on time. Is there any more comments? I know, I was confused. Is there anybody online?
Somebody had their hand raised, but they put it down, so.
Okay, can we just ask just to make sure?
Yeah. Scobie. Scobie, did you wanna
Is that?
comment?
Okay. All right, we'll move on. Okay. So at this time also that we have the ability to respond back to public comments. I think dialogue's important. So is there anything that Counselor Sundy that you have to make any comments on? Council President Chilton? No. Okay, Counselor Hubbard? Counselor Gunderson, do you have anything? I do want to mention on Community Day, because that is something also that, I was considering as well as a talking point. But that is out of a completely different fund than the general fund. So therefore, it's already been paid for. It's out of the tourism account. And so, is it? Oh, it is on the agenda. Well, I'm gonna bring that up. Yeah, we'll talk about that. I don't know how I missed that. Thank you. Thank you, Council President Chilton. I did want to address that. We can put on the discussion too for stipends. I also want to allow the opportunity, since we do have the chief and lieutenant here, is there anything that you would like to make any remarks on any of the information that has been said?
Yeah, some of it, it's pretty incredible that I have to say it, but shift extensions, when you look at overtime, is usually as a result of a critical call for service where you can't actually go home. Most officers, I would say the overall majority at the end of their shift, want to go home. So when you do see shift extensions, it's because of a call for service or an emergency call for service. So, and the other thing about canceling all overtime, like I said, I got a graduate degree in public administration. I got academic experience in public finance. I've been in law enforcement 25 years. I've never heard something more patently ridiculous that we should just cancel all overtime. If there's a stabbing at, for instance, it's on the itinerary here at Broadleaf. If we were to follow that logic to its natural conclusion, if officers were in the middle of investigating an attempted murder and their shift ended at 5 o'clock, I don't think the rational response would be for every officer just to pack up and leave the scene. That's just not a realistic expectation for public safety. I've just never heard anything quite like that. So, the solid question is that if you don't want officers working overtime and working past their shifts, I guess the follow-up would be, what are we going to do with the citizens that need our emergency assistance? And right now, looking at all the options in front of us, I want to make sure officers are on duty as much as possible. So if, for instance, a citizen is suffering a medical emergency, needs an AED, or we need to deliver Narcan to a citizen who's actively overdosing, we save their lives. And that's our top priority. Sentry?
Well, and I'll add to that because I was the major crimes commander at the stabbing and I worked 18 hours. Now I am not a union employee. I don't get overtime. But that's how long it took for me to be there, make sure everything was done. We had officers who were there who worked 20 hours because there was no other staff. We called in other staff to cover the road because those officers were tied up on that stabbing. So then we had to call in officers to come in and cover the shift from 7 o'clock to 10 o'clock in the morning, because we can't have personnel at a stabbing for 20 hours, get 3 hours of sleep and try and come back to work. That's not possible. So overtime is very, very difficult to control because of what occurs. Just like court, you have officers who work night. Court is during the day. They have to get up in the middle of their sleep and go to court. They're compensated per the contract for a 3-hour callback for that. That's just how it is. That's
They get to choose their court dates.
No, it's completely out there.
Subpoena.
So to say you're gonna not allow to pay any officers overtime, the follow-up question would be, well, what happens if we have court on our days off? I mean, that just.
we have mandated training that they have to attend to keep their certification.
And to go a step further. There were wild alterations in overtime over some of the years that were described, but what isn't brought up is the fact that we assisted on multiple homicide investigations on the major crimes team over the last couple of years. We had a citizen in 2021 that went missing from our community that we spent an enormous amount of time and energy and resources investigating. And I think the family, imagine just for a moment, if one of your loved ones disappeared without a trace, I think the expectation would be the police department would do everything they could to find him.
Can you talk about really quick too? I know we covered this at the special session, but I think it's good since we're talking about this today, about the overtime as well. And that actually was less than filling the open FTEs at an officer at 190,000 a year approximately. It actually, for the open FTE positions, if you were able to fill those, it would have actually cost more money.
Correct. And something else that is brought up, which I think needs to be said, is that we currently have the detective sergeant position that is open and unfilled right now. That's my old position. That's what I was promoted from. I'm still doing that job right now. And I'm serving as your police chief. So essentially, I actually took a $17,000 a year reduction in pay to become the police chief. When I promoted Lieutenant Treat, he was a sergeant at the police department. He took a larger hit. He's doing all of his previous duties plus the lieutenant's duties, and he's making $48,000 a year less. So I would say that when you hear descriptions from other departments about furloughs and so forth, there are cost-saving measures that we are actively engaging in right now to try to offset some of these costs as best we can.
One other thing I'd like to point out is the schedule. You talk about the schedule. Everybody talks about 12s. Do not go to 12s. Do not go to 12s, because 12 hours turn into 18-hour shifts when somebody calls in sick, and you have people that are tied up in court, people who are on vacation, people who are in training, and now you're paying somebody to work 18 hours, and already at 12 hours you have issues. 8 hours, if we go to 8 hours, we will not have a staff. One of the things people don't realize is that nobody wants to be a police officer anymore. The public and the media have talked us down so much. You know, back in 94, 32 years ago when I started, there were 220 officers who showed up here for one position. And I was fortunate enough to get that one position here. We're lucky to get 6.
It doesn't help when we have people in the community calling you guys pigs either, so that's a problem.
That's fair. Something else to bring in mind with the 10-hour shifts, there's a valid point. They don't divide equally.
That's
But
why
there's a
nope.
reason for that, because we have shift overlap. And the purpose of having shift overlap between two shifts is to allow the outgoing shift to transition to the work to the oncoming shift. It's actually a way to mitigate your overtime. Right now, my philosophy has been have maximum amounts of staff on duty during our peak calls for service, which is we have right now. 95% of our priority calls for service take place during the hours in which our officers are staffed currently. And I still think that is the smartest way to deploy our personnel.
Also, President
When we
Chilton,
were on 12s before, we actually terminated an officer who was down 48 reports because he couldn't get them done, because he didn't have time to write reports, because he goes from call to call to call to call to call.
I have
That's
a
the cost. And again, an individual who's working for a private corporation, not in public safety, looking at the numbers, you're right, they're looking at through a specific prism. That prism makes sense in the private sector. We're not the private sector. We're not a private sector employee. We're a public safety agency.
I think it's important to mention that the person that did the report that was referenced earlier, that was a chief of police, never ran on 10s either.
No, I mean, I know Jim.
He never ran on 8s.
He-
And
he-
8s, excuse me.
He ran on 10s.
So the Oregon City Police Department operated on 10-hour shifts. So I'll leave it at that.
That's,
So President Chilton has been like dying to ask a question.
Okay, so this has obviously been a topic in the city of St. Helens for a while now, especially with the changes with the sheriff's department. So technically, the citizens of St. Helens are paying to have service from the Columbia County Sheriff's Department. So what would that look like? And how long, does it take to get support from the sheriff's office in St. Helens? And what if we were to reduce 24-hour coverage and allow for the sheriff's department to cover those other hours, which they should be covering in the city of St. Helens technically?
we're doing that right now. That started last night. We do not have 24-hour coverage. We are not on call. The sheriff's office is covering from last night through August 1st, when we can get back to 24-hour coverage, when we can get our other 4 officers out of FTEP, Field Training and Evaluation Program, and get them to solo status. Again, it's 14 to 16 months to take a brand new officer off, somebody you hire off the street and turn them into a police officer. So there is a long lead time. So with that said, there are certain dates that we are going to have to be 24 hours and pay the overtime. And that is going to be the 4th of July weekend, where it's on a Saturday. And we already know we're going to have 24-hour coverage on Friday, Saturday, and Sunday in order to deal with the call load, because it will be it will be massive, the amount of calls that.
It should be mentioned too, that the coverage that CCSO is providing, like we could have 2 officer or that their deputies in Vernonia or Clatskanie. And
That's why I was
I think
asking
it's
about the
like-
response time, but I think that's something we kind of need to see. So I'd like to see how that plays out and get a response from you guys about how that's working out with them covering those hours.
I'm meeting weekly. Our first meeting will be next Tuesday to see how the previous week went.
And I did have a conversation with Pixley as well, and they're looking at a budget hit as well, especially potentially with the 911. If that doesn't pass, they're probably looking at about a 990 some thousand hit for user fees, as well as us at 550,000 that will approximately have to have. So the ability for them to also continue to maintain coverage for us is not likely to happen in the.
It's also not likely that he'll have 24-hour coverage.
Well, and the county is required though to provide coverage.
No, county is required to run certain things, search and rescue, civil process,
Jail.
and the jail. That is all the county is legally provided, are
Even with the levy?
obligated. Well, that levy.
The jail.
I don't think it was just for the jail.
You have patrol levy. If they can't support their patrol, they'll end up laying patrol off.
So some of the questions we're already exploring with Sheriff Pixley is integrating our investigations division, their detectives and ours together. So something that I foresee happening in our new public safety facility is there'll be enough room for their detectives and ours to operate out of the same building collaboratively. And so my idea is we can operate and get more accomplished together than running two, entirely redundant detective divisions that have cases that overlap amongst each other. So some of the conversations we're going to start having is how do we take the sheriff's office patrol schedule and then develop our own patrol schedule at the same time, where we can ensure there's maximum coverage for the city of St. Helens with a robust intergovernmental agreement with the sheriff's office to help each other on a priority call. So we're having those discussions, ma'am, but those discussions, as far as we can tell, have never taken place in Columbia County before.
They haven't, no.
Maybe-
So, yeah, that's why I wanted to make sure I brought it up because it is something that people have talked about, so.
So
There's, within the last 2 to 3 years, ma'am, there's been significant cases with the major crimes team. I think Scappoose had 3 homicides. We had what we believed at the time to be a missing person that we strongly suspected was a homicide that we investigated. So there's a number of cases over the years where we've had to work together with the sheriff's office, and the idea is let's just integrate more closely together and try to address some of the coverage issues that you're bringing up.
And the 10-hour schedule is best practices. That's why every agency out here 410s. If we were to go to 8s, we will have officers leave. So that $150,000 I just spent, we spent to get that officer certified and on his own will leave.
And I'll leave you with this. If 8-hour patrol schedules were the answer to short staffing nationally, then you don't see the Seattle Police Department, the San Francisco Police Department, or any other agency that is suffering extensive short staffing, to include the Portland Police Bureau. They're not running on those schedules because they're inherently inefficient. They don't have the shift overlap, and that will inevitably cause overtime.
the last thing I just wanted to comment was on, I think it was another public comment, and it was the swings in the budget. And I encourage anybody to go back. I won't rehash it, but on the special session that we have, that's something when I went through the trial budget that I had pointed out during that session and asked the chief about it, because there was, I guess I would say, budgeting issues that were not of this chief and lieutenant that are sitting here today. There were issues with the fleet program, the radio, not the radio, the report writing system, where it was under budgeted and over budgeted. And it was just a hot mess, and you guys got it figured out. So I'd go back and watch that special session if you want more information on that. Okay, anything else? All right, love the dialogue. Okay, we're moving on. So we have quarterly reports from departments, city departments and divisions. Sorry, Mike, you've been here for a while waiting for this. I didn't have anything on your report. I see the increase in the fees. Did you guys have anything from the reports? From Michael?
Michael, his name's Mike.
I know, but on his report. You prefer Mike or Michael? Mike?
Mike's fine.
Perfect. Anything at all?
Got a question. Is that, the fees are all going up? Is that across the board or is just specifically?
Yeah, so general, the fees on the building fee schedule are increasing by 3% in general. There were a few fees that were found to be even more deficient, and so I examined those closer to have those reflect the actual time, labor and materials and everything that we put into those inspections. And so in general, it's 3%. There were a few that went beyond that 3%.
Anything else?
Say,
Everything's going,
Not happy about it, but.
yeah, everything's going up. Counselor Gunderson?
I was gonna see if Mike wanted to comment the last time that the fees were increased. I know it's been a while, so.
Yeah, so we did a fee adjustment in 2020 when we went to the e-permitting system, but it really was not, there was a couple of slight increases, but it really wasn't an increase. So our last increase was back in 2017 from the 2015 rates. So it's been 9 years since we've done an actual increase. And the whole purpose in general for our increasing is to reduce our burden on the general fund. The burden of development should be on those that come to the city to develop, or at least that's the way the rules kind of present it. And so the idea is that we won't be as much of a burden on the general fund. So
it's the builders.
what's that?
It's the
Sorry, Russ. Gotta pay up. Thanks, Mike. Thank you.
And we have the review of ordinance 3323 regarding operational regulations of the Planning Commission and Historical Landmarks Commission.
Jacob had a report in his,
Oh, hold on. I'm just not scrolling. Hold on.
Well,
You can
that's,
see
this
his-
is Jacob's part as well, so.
Yeah, this is Jacob's as well, but
low.
wait, hold on.
Yeah, I
I
see
think
that.
I think I
I
think
seen
I
that
used
card
the
you
ref.
scanned in there. It was a thank you card.
Into from Mike's into yours. That's a B.
That was your thank you card in there,
What
right?
page does that start on, Kathy? So I make sure, because I've read all this, but I'm trying to figure out where his started and Jacob started. This was got all the fees.
Cities.
Yeah, okay, here we go. It was a beautiful map. Got it. It was your map, I remember. Okay. There's nothing that stood out on this one. I didn't have any notes on any questions on here, Jacob. Does anybody else have any on this?
See anything? Is there any questions or concerns that you want to bring to the council?
Okay, well then that still brings us back to you on the review of ordinance.
Okay, yeah, so ordinance 3323, we discussed this at the joint planning commission city council meeting recently. And it was a very quick discussion with not a lot of controversy. The planning commission has discussed it over the 3 or 4 meetings, not consecutive meetings. So we finally put it in ordinance form, and that's what you have for the first reading tonight. Again, it's planning commission organizational procedure. The catalyst for it was the planning commission re-examining their absentee rules and when do we get excited enough to have a public hearing about someone's continuance on the planning commission. So instead of 3 consecutive, it was 4 per calendar year, and then some other housekeeping stuff.
Well, we were present for that one, so. Anybody have any questions or comments on that one? Okay.
Thank you for
Thank you, yeah, thank you,
Sure,
Jacob.
yeah.
Feels like we're doing a lot of housekeeping. Cleaning up and housekeeping, it's nice. Okay, so it is endless, isn't it? One goes away, it's like Swiss cheese and 3 more pop up. And then we have service reduction options discussion from Don Walsh.
Thank you, guys.
All right, well, thank
Thank
you,
you.
Mayor. So I feel like this has been pretty well queued up here to have a discussion about the budget balancing strategies. And why we're talking about that is that Lori and I and department heads are working to try to bring you a balanced budget and basically make it to the end of the year with the budget that we have right now, so we don't go negative on general fund. So we've, stopped all essential funding as far as expenditures. If we don't need it, we're not gonna buy it, hold it. We have a position, we leave it open. And just looking at those numbers, it helps, but it's not enough. So we're back in March, I sent a notice to all staff about the intent to impose furloughs and potential layoffs. more as a stopgap because we have a required negotiating with our bargaining units. There's a 90-day period with that. And I wanted to get that going. And we've done that. We've met initially with our bargaining unit, both our bargaining units, and have initial dates, requests for information coming back and forth, and then future dates scheduled within this period. It's going along, and nobody's excited about furloughs. Nobody's excited about reducing programs or services, but it's really a legal requirement in a balanced budget. So, and make that the the reductions we need to have. But how we do that is something council, we're looking for your direction on that. And a lot of it depends on whether or not the general service fee of $24 is approved. That'll lessen the burden. So, but it's moving forward with the presumption that it may not. We need to have that, plan for that scenario as well. So I framed 3 options. One of them was like a furlough first, which was my initial thoughts around that, is that we maintain the services we have, but we reduce down to 32 hours a week is the number we came up working with Gloria on that. That's 20% hit and pay. It's a big number. It really impacts our employees. It doesn't send a message that we value them. I'm on that list as well. And just wanted to put that out there. It just seems like a little bit too far, right? And another end of the spectrum is we reduce employees. So we start looking at who can we lay off and to basically get back to that number of 0. And we've already lost 20% of our employees over the last, since 2022. And so going and as we keep cutting, that just gets down to the inability to provide services, hours, operations, and so if we use layoffs to build back, to eat up some of that 20%, get it back to more to a middle, to minimize it, that it still provides those services, values our employees as much as we can. That's what option 2 is intended to portray. Then option 3 is just program reductions, suspending, and I used the term non-essential. I meant that in the all our services. It was a bad choice of words.
Yeah, that was a bad choice of words.
I'm gonna own that. My frame was Maslow's hierarchy of needs, where we start off by, our basic physiological needs by eating and breathing air, and as kind of safety's next, and as we kind of move up to some of the other programs. I apologize for raising that, but all our departments, and I think we all add value to the city. So, I heard earlier in the meeting that, this isn't staff's fault. The departments, nearly all departments are operating well within their budgets, and it's showing up, doing good work. There's some of the police, the transitions, the points the mayor made as far as the records management, some of the fleet decisions that we're kind of working to rectify. Those are in play, and really taking those steps to bring that budget down and give as much service as we can with the resources we have available.
I think they were mismanaged. There was many things in that budget that was mismanaged, in my opinion.
So, I don't disagree, but
John, can we talk about also the fact that we just didn't get here in the last 14 months or in the last year. This has taken years to get to this point. And from sitting down with yourself and Gloria, like the amount of times that a red flag has been raised on not using one-time revenue. It's not the council that's sitting here currently. We're trying to figure this out. But at using one-time revenues like selling property or cutting timber, that is how we've gotten into this place. All of a sudden, we were able to save like the general fund and do all these things because we had Band-Aids that we were able to use. We have no more of those resources that we can Band-Aid. So I mean, for us, while we're having this conversation, in my opinion, simultaneously, we have to continue focusing on generating revenue. There are like, if we go back to the fact that we have 16 funds, and correct me if I'm wrong, 16 funds in our city budget, all of them are operating in a healthy standpoint, except for one, which is the general fund. And there is limited amount of resources for reoccurring revenue to support what we all consider essential services, rec, library, police. There's just not a lot of like revenue that comes in there. In fact, I'm hoping if Gloria could also, is Gloria, she's not here, right? Is she online? About talking about library and police and court. They don't get any GFSSs. I think that's important to understand. There's a lot of education pieces around this, that it's not just liking a department, disliking a department, feeling like one's more valuable. They're all valuable. They're all essential to the vitality and the livability of our city. There's just not enough funds. And the council, I want to bring up, the council made a decision, last year on an ordinance that puts all fees back to the voters. We could sit up here right now and we could say, we're going to put a general service fee on to fund all of these essential. We can't do that. It's up to the voters at this point to determine what is valuable to them and what services they would like to pay for. So Gloria, can you talk a little bit more about that? Because when we come up as council, what I've seen in the past is we just are superficial. We just, council just generally brushes over stuff and we don't get into the education piece. And I think the education is what is a huge miss that we're not providing to citizens to better understand the dynamics of our budget.
Sure. So we have talked a little bit. And so what more specifically are you wanting me to
can you talk more specifically about how the general fund is funded for revenues? Where does that money come from? And again, that, like for the GFSSs, the library, court, and police are not funded. They don't get those.
Right. So you're talking, right. So general revenues is what we're talking about that funds the general fund. We're talking about property taxes, franchise fees, state shared revenues, which is things like alcohol tax, cigarette tax, marijuana tax, those kind of things. Those are basically the big funders of the general fund. In addition, we charge our other operating funds, street fund and water, sewer, storm, for general fund support services. And these are charged to those funds in support of general fund administrative services. So things like finance department, administration department, or finance division in the city. Those things we can charge for our services to those utility funds and the street sub fund. And we can only do a certain percentage, and we are limited by what departments and functions and services we can charge to those funds by our various funding agencies. So we rely on state and federal grants and loans, low interest loans from state and federal agencies. And they require that we limit how much we charge those utility funds for general fund services. And things like police, library, recreation, municipal court, those things are not funded by funded from utility fees, basically. So we can't charge for those services to the utility funds. So that's basically it. in a nutshell.
Basically, they're expenditures with no revenue.
Correct. So we're really, we rely on property taxes and franchise fees and all of those other general revenues in order to fund those services that we can't charge to our other funds.
Yeah, and I just want to go back, so it's on the record, because hopefully people are gonna come back and they're gonna watch this video, and a lot of times these are hodgepodge into different recordings. But the general fund is approximately 13+% of our budget of 92+ million, correct?
Yeah, basically.
Okay, and are approximately, we have library 7%, finance 9%, we have planning 3%, rec 3%, technology 5%, building 3%, general services 8%, administration 4%, city recorder 3%, city council 1%, municipal court 4%, police is 45% approximately. So when people say also that it's 50% of the budget, that's correct for the general fund. It's about 5.6-ish% of the entire city budget as well. But these are the things that sit in the general fund. And 3 of them, the library, the police, and court, have their expenses with no revenue tied to them. That make sense?
One of the things in my report I didn't touch on was the fact that, St. Helens is by no means alone in this. This issue of this structural deficit where it states everywhere you look, there's a school districts everywhere is that the expenses are growing, that our property taxes are capped. They don't grow as fast as our expenses and by a pretty wide margin. So, how we've been surviving is by these one-time infusions of revenues that, otherwise would have went to community development or other
Yeah, to actually generate revenue.
investments that would
Right.
might economic development, that types of things that we could make investments in, but we have been rolling those back into staff, and it says every year that money is just gone. So it's just something that's we should survive.
That's so frustrating.
Survive one more year, that we.
The needs are increasing, right? Because the city is increasing with people. And so the calls for service for police and fire and the patrons using the library and the people involved in the after-school programs, all of it is increasing, but we can't increase the revenue to support the programs.
Point. Yeah, and our staffing numbers keep going downward, so we've gone from 85 to 73. That's a lot.
I think one of the other things that should be discussed, like they see online and out and about, is that, the all of like the waste and like funds, right? Like it's being mismanaged. I don't know about the rest of the council. I know there's quite a few on here that have spent a vast amount of time, like myself, going through the trial balance and going through the budget and trying to understand where costs are and beating up. I don't care what department it is, and not beating up, but looking at opportunities or red flags for cost savings. And I just don't see a lot of ways. I feel like we have also trimmed down on the departments. And John, you and Gloria have been, as you said, working with staff to figure out what the best course of action is within the available funds.
We have.
So this is where we came up with the 3 options.
Yeah, that's the 3 options. There's a recommendation that tries to balance. Minimize the amount of furloughs, utilizing us, fortunately. And keeping the programs going now. And that's all premised off the non-essential spending. We're not spending on, we're not filling positions, we're not and buying things we don't need. So we can.
I was looking at your staff recommendation, John, and my curiosity is around the second bullet where you said achieves remaining savings through targeted layoffs consistent with bargaining. What does a targeted layoff look like?
We have to follow our bargain agreements.
So explain that. Certain people would not be considered because they're protected by the bargaining agreement. Is that a good way to say that?
Generally, the more tenure you have, the more security you have.
more tenure. So someone who's worked here longer would potentially be safer, you know, as far as being laid off versus somebody who's brand new to the city, even if they're still a part of the union.
Yeah,
Okay.
that's correct. There is there's hierarchy, there's family groupings. Yes, that's the intention of that.
Okay. And council is not a part of any negotiations for,
They're not. We check in and report and share what.
I did want to make a comment, because it's going to be on here as well, on the legal fees. It was a public comment about like having a lawyer here for, you know, all of our meetings. And, you know, up to this point, we're in a very litigious society right now. And it is litigious is a very, I think it's a legal term. I'm not a lawyer, but I think it's a legal term. So trying to make sure that we, you know, are doing things correctly and having that background so we don't have legal fees that creep up. So that is a discussion that was requested, that we break down the legal fees. So that's later on the agenda as well.
Yes, there's a lot of expenses beyond our, you know, outside of our control. I think we get served with the things, demands for records, things of that nature, that takes a lot of time, resources.
Well,
That turns into dollars.
yeah. So all of it adds up. What else do we need to chat about this?
I did propose a motion to give direction to this council direction staff there. Which will work session action item. Try to find the balance. When, you know, those three factors about keeping programs going, missing expenses.
If we voted on that today and it passed, when would it start?
We don't have a specific day, it's just building the budget on it.
So if we need to do that, we have the budget committee coming up, we have the May election coming up, which could, you know, if people choose to support the general fund and all these essential elements of it, and then like, what does that look like? I think that it's important to let staff know what is going on as far as we can, and that's up to you as a city administrator in the most expeditious way so that.
Well, I was jumping back to something that John had said earlier, which is that it sounded like this was something we needed to implement right now. So that wouldn't be before budget committee. That would be something you would implement
we-
right now. Is that correct?
Maria can weigh in on this, but our current glide path to being negative in the general fund is because of our reductions has slowed that down a bit, but it's still gonna be close to zero.
So you're not exactly sure when it would start, but
We need
likely.
to touch zero before we obviously can't go below zero.
Okay.
The collective bargaining, it's both have a 90-day period, if you've even noticed, so there's that overlay, so we're not gonna be able to impose anything until we come to agreement. Perhaps, you know, we could do it sooner than that, and there's some management issues about supervising these people while the management's out.
Yeah, okay.
Evaluating all those things.
I just want to make sure I was getting the timeline appropriate. It does sound like it would be soon.
At the same time, just looking at other expenditure reductions, however we can to make that. I don't have a date certain, but we can check in. It won't be next meeting. I'll be keeping you informed at.
So should we talk about, I mean, it came up during public comment about, you know, our stipends. I think it's only fair that we have that conversation up here on the diocese as well. Do you want to be furloughed?
I mean, there's some precedent back in 2008-9 when we were in one of these down cycles like this. I wasn't here, but the council did take a reduction in their stipend for a number of years. City budgets were healthy enough, they restored it. So.
I think it's appropriate.
I think it would be, I think that we should give concessions, just, I mean, I donate 100% of my stipend to a Sarah Zuber Memorial, which is really, really important to me, so I'd rather, for me, I go without so that I can support that memorial fund. But I think it should be discussed if others are giving concessions. It'd probably be a little easier to swallow if, there wasn't such targeted attacks and harassment and bullying that happens at every meeting up here. It's kind of part of the gig, but it would be a little bit easier, I'm sure, to swallow. But maybe we could get citizens to turn a leaf and be more positive. I don't know. There's always hoping.
Could align our deductions along with the employees' deductions.
20%.
Well, it's 10%.
10%.
Penny's got. All the suit.
Down with that.
We should do something.
I mean, I think like it's a show of good faith. It's really not gonna do anything to fix the situation. But if that makes everybody feel better, then sure.
I feel like we gotta be in it with everybody else is how I feel about it too.
I'm more concerned about them being in it together, the employees and the departments not tearing each other apart because they have to work together. We all have to work together.
Yeah, it's like a general fund knife fight every year. Yeah. So. We do like a general consensus is the same as everybody else. Come to function. Yes? Kathy, can you do that emotion? Okay. Then we have, let's see, discussion regarding community. I kind of jumped in on that, like all excited about our public comment opportunities. Which I just love that, by the way, now. It's great to have the dialogue. But you want to talk about community days? I kind of sort of thunder on that one. Yeah, I mean, I kind of stole your thunder, but go ahead.
Yeah, we met with Treadway earlier in the week to talk about budget and programs, looking for places to save money. And the consideration was that we pay Treadway a strict fee to do the community day. It was an add-on to their initial contract. And wanted to have that conversation to see how much work they'd put into it and was, is it going to save us any money? And they came back with most of that is already programmed. It's already there's sponsors for it that they don't specifically support Community Day, but part of a sponsorship package that supports all of the events. That was an important one for some of the people who sponsored.
Donations.
Oh, and all the food's been lined up to be donated.
And it doesn't come out of the general fund. Can we highlight that over and over again?
Yeah,
It doesn't come out of the general fund.
And Public Works employees will not be setting up the event or doing any work on the event.
I know it was significantly less the first year they did it. Before it was very labor intensive by staff. But when Treadway took over the contract, they still did a fair amount, but I don't know the number. Wow, that nature, but.
That would be a concern of mine, just because that does directly come out of the general fund budget, and that is something, especially if we're looking at furloughs, those staff having to get their regular work done while setting up events.
I feel like my recollection from the meeting was that they are trying to limit it on seeing city staff for anything. You recall anything about that?
They are trying to limit using staff for doing those types of things, but there are some like picnic table moving and things like that that are.
If we can get some volunteers for that.
Almost entirely the Public Works crew is not paid out of the general fund, so that's a factor as well, so.
Did we already pay for the fireworks show?
Treadway
That's
has,
$40,000, right?
But it's paid out of the tour. We can't take that money and use it anywhere else anyway, and it's already paid for.
Money's left over, didn't we? Did we carry over?
That was for last year, wasn't it?
year prior to that, yeah.
That wasn't only 10.
And I think about,
We met
we're
on-
gonna be saying,
Right.
how can we afford these
Well, I
fireworks?
think that that's where the communication comes in, that it comes from a completely different fund than what we're talking about here is in the general fund. Like that has to be echoed over and over and over again. I mean, we have 16 funds. General fund is one of the 16 that is obviously deficient for tourism. They have it in their budget to do it. We met, it looks like they're on target for their budget.
Just thinking about the optics, just like us taking a reduction in our stipend, right? That's just mainly for the optics of it and solidarity, and we're putting on a fireworks show, you know?
Well, I think.
So that's all I'm saying, is this doesn't look right.
But the optics are, we respectively, we come out of the general fund. So we are part of that fund, but here's the thing, when we continue to cross pollinate, we create confusion with citizens. The more that we can say this is out of a separate fund, these cannot be cross pollinated. You can't transfer the money into this fund. The more that we can help people understand the budget. Right now, people still don't understand the budget. They think things can, all those funds can come from Public Works to fund it or whatever the case is. That's not reality. And there is such a confusion out there on how the general fund works. That's why the staff has put this together. Like, general fund, what is it? Because I'm spending hours each day talking to citizens, and there is a lack of understanding of how our budget works. It's complicated. It doesn't make sense even outside of normal business. It's different. So I think that the optics, I don't think we feed into it. I think we help educate against it. Like,
I think though that, there's a management of all of these budgets, right? So I think even if tourism's doing fine or the library's doing fine, the question is, why is the general fund still not doing fine, and just
Because it has-
looking at the whole management picture. So even if they are separate funds, it is a question on how everything's being managed as a whole.
it's also about revenue. Revenue, it's money. It's literally money, that we don't have enough money coming in, just like household budget. There's not enough money. We don't create enough. We've used our assets to have FTEs instead of actually creating things that generate revenue for us. Crazy. I don't know.
Realize that canceling citizen community day isn't gonna help the general fund, but I guess my hope was that we could put the effort from that into the 4th of July and just make that more of a community focused event. Community Day is just one more thing. And even if staff time and effort is limited, there's still some involvement there.
Problem is that Treadway's already done 80% of the
Yeah.
planning for the event.
That came up in our meeting.
And it couldn't be switched over. It couldn't be changed over to the 4th that weekend. I'm not saying we should. I'm just asking.
I do not have.
Offer the vendors the opportunity instead of going there to go to the 4th, and if they can't, give them a refund.
I think it's worth it.
Sponsorship, asking them if they would,
Likely, if they've sponsored that, they've sponsored the 4th too, so.
The sponsorship's pretty limited on that, if I recall correctly.
Yeah,
Like,
it's not one of the big ones.
No, I think.
No, it's just one more thing. It seems like there's staff effort involved with the parade and then Community Day and the 4th of July, and it's.
See that they are paid though, we still are gonna owe it to them for putting together 80% of it. So what exactly are we going to extrapolate and take over to the 4th? We have to pay them for their services that they've already done. I guess that's where I,
Haven't finished it yet, so their services aren't.
about 80%, they said about 80%, right?
Pre-planning, there's still the execution.
But the actual performance of it, the actual staff, so.
So maybe it's worth asking, John.
I think it's worth asking to see what they'll charge. They'll charge us something to back out of it, but then they can put it into that. I'm with Brandon on this.
One of the big draws about that day is the car shows is very, very popular, and I don't know about moving it down to the.
So they have talked about a car show on the 4th as well. Probably not as big as what they get at Community Day.
The same
Community Day's been what's that?
the same organization that does it.
30 cruisers. Community Day has been an issue too, because they don't like bringing their cars out that soon in the summer, I was told by so.
Get dirty.
There was plans to maybe move Community Day to the same day as the parade. And the Highway 30 cruisers were the big ones that were against that because
The date didn't work for them.
well, they don't like bringing their cars out when there's a chance that it could be bad weather. So.
But July,
Can you take that, John, and then communicate with Treadway and then bring it back at the next council meeting on that possibility to move the efforts to the fourth?
I would just be curious to see if there is any cost savings, what it would look like.
Anything else on that one? Good with that? Okay. Then we have, request a legal break, the breakdown of legal fees from the general fund. Is Ashley taking this or are you taking this?
I believe Ashley is, we had a pregame here. Actually should be online there.
Good afternoon, Mayor and councilors. This is an item that you are requesting, and it is an item that I've been working on, and it is not complete. I will say that as I am taking a look at this, a recommendation for how to organize this information is to look at legal services in terms of categories. And then I would work with the finance director and the city administrator on the accounting and the costs for these categories. But as an example, the city has several categories for legal services, such as general municipal law services. And these are outside contract services, so not services related to city staffing. So general municipal law services, municipal court services, the city has contracts with judge and prosecutors. Labor law, the city has a contract with a labor law firm that handles bargaining issues and arbitration when there are arbitration or union issues that need resolved. There are employment law costs, legal costs related to employment law issues, real estate issues, real estate law. So that would include real estate transactions when the city is buying or selling property, or real estate litigation issues if there is litigation related to a real estate transaction. There are also land use law issues. So that would be general land use legal advice related to the planning commission or the planning official in reviewing and deciding land use applications. And then there is also land use litigation if there are appeals of land use decisions. Another category relates to public records, both just in the review of records for what can be released, what is exempt and not required to be disclosed, and also public records appeals to the district attorney, and finally, public records litigation. Another category that I will be that we can look at is economic development and urban renewal costs. So that's legal costs related to the review of economic development, such as potentially the waterfront project, or any urban renewal activities. Then there are legal costs related to environmental issues, which arise from time to time because the city has regulated programs and services with its water and wastewater programs. There are also legal costs related to the franchise that the city awards. And then there can be legal costs related to contract disputes. So those are the general categories that I've identified that would be broken down in this review. Does anybody have any questions related to those?
These are just ones that are paid out of professional services for the city. These are not claims that are tendered to CIS.
That's correct. These are all legal costs that the city has or is likely to incur. And when I looked, that's correct, they're not related to CIS. So CIS is the city's insurance service, and they cover tort claims. Generally, they probably cover some other items, but so these are all legal costs that are outside of the city's insurance defense.
When do you think it's reasonable that we could see some monetary amounts associated with each of these, I guess, whatever sections or categories?
So, what time frame would you like to see these costs, these categories of costs for? 1 year?
Oh, I was gonna say last month, wanted to see it.
Well-
No, I think that, well, we can leave it up to council, but I think 3 years is probably a good look for your. What does everybody else feel as far as how far back she would extrapolate the information?
I'll just be frank, I'm concerned about how much time she's gonna spend on doing this and that we're gonna be paying for that time. Right? Isn't that kind of,
Yeah, but I think, so I agree with that, but
that's
there's
just my first
but
thought
how
is like,
do we mitigate against things that we also don't know the cost of it? How do we know we have the appropriate entities working on the things that should be working on that don't cost us more money in the long run?
what if we just limit it? I mean, how do we really, just maybe get city council approval before going to attorneys about stuff or something like that? I don't know. Haven't given it any thought. I didn't realize the list was that long, but I know during budget season, Gloria also, we go through the budget pretty clearly and there, she has a lot of the line items in there for legal fees. So I'm wondering if this is something that Gloria may already have some numbers for, so that we're not paying an attorney to find these numbers. I don't know.
He did. She provided it in the trial balance. It's about $750,000 in 25-26 year to date, which is why I want to know where we're spending our money.
So she's not able to break it down? Okay, that's what I was asking for, because I'm just wondering why we're asking an attorney to break it
Because
down
the
for
way
us.
that, I guess, and Ashley, jump in, the way that the invoices and the stuff come across. It's not stuff that is, I guess, listed, because I asked Gloria the same exact question, why can't we have more detail? But I'd like to know where our money's going and also to make sure that we're having appropriate entities look at it, which is where council would start.
Well, what if we get an audit? I just don't know if the city attorney should be doing this. It feels,
Well,
it doesn't
Ashley,
feel,
can you
it feels
chime in?
counterproductive to me.
Can you,
Weird.
can you chime in? Gloria.
So Gloria, look, I will say that I haven't charged the city any amount of money so far to review these items. I wanted to provide kind of just a general framework for how I would recommend looking at this is that when you look at your lump sum legal fees, it is broken down. There are a lot of categories. And so different attorneys you have contracts with, they do break up their bills with these categories. But it does require some manual work on the part of someone to identify what costs go with each category. It looks like Gloria has her hand up, so maybe she can help provide more information.
So I wanted to kind of dive into that just a little bit. We do, when we code and pay those invoices for the various attorneys, we do allocate them according to the way Ashley was talking about it. So the court attorneys are in municipal court division, their budget, that's it, their line in professional services. And then for planning, for attorneys' fees for planning services, those are in the planning budget. That's where they're coded to, that's where they're charged to. So we can run a report, a detailed report on just professional services And we can show where by department or by budget, those have been charged to.
Yeah, I've seen those. They're already listed in there.
Right, and you know, that's really what Ashley would just be repeating that. And starting at ground zero when we can supply that kind of information. We just won't have the detail of what they were doing, you know, so we'll have it recorded. Say it's Jordan Ramus and charged to planning. We won't say what, you know, what issue they were talking about. We would have to go to the invoice for that kind of information, but at least you would know what the breakout was.
And you could see the invoices to get that information though, if you wanted to. Is that right, Gloria?
We could, yeah, that would take more time and I don't think that that would definitely not be good use of our attorney.
Yes, thank you, Gloria. I appreciate that. I think maybe, you know, Mayor, if this is something that really intrigues you, you do have the ultimate authority to look at anything you want within the city. So maybe this could be a mayor task that you look into with your time. See if there's anything there that needs to be discussed.
Yeah, I
or that
mean,
you
I
could
have,
look for.
I have no problem looking into it. I spend copious amounts of hours every single week doing research and going.
That's why this would be perfect for you.
Right. My concern on wanting to find this is if we need to be looking at cost reduction, I want to know how much time our law firms are spending on specific topics, because it's $750,000 over this period of time. Should we be assessing that? Should we be assessing that we have the best individuals looking at these? Are they have excessive billing hours? I'm not saying we do, but these are the type of things that $750,000 a year, that's a lot of FTEs. There's stuff that's gonna be not in our control, but I certainly want to know how many hours one specific project that we have law firms billing us.
I think you could look into that though.
And we start with seeing what Gloria can provide to us, and then
It's on all our budgets though.
I've seen that, but not in one place. It would be nice to see it all in one spot, see what else she might be able to provide that wasn't in the budget. And then maybe go from there before Ashley dives into
So
it.
what I hear you saying is like, okay, so for like the trial balance, and hopefully I'm articulating this right, the trial balance where it's showing the 750,000. Are you saying that have that report regenerated that extrapolates all this information into each of these line items?
I would feel more comfortable seeing what Gloria could get to us before we have
By
And-
running a
an
report.
attorney dig into it.
I mean, if I had the record, I didn't do it myself, but.
So you could get the records. You're the mayor.
Is that something you can do?
You can get anything you want. But if it's really something that you feel strongly about, I would encourage you to find it and bring it to us so we can have a discussion about it. But I don't feel comfortable having the city attorney do that.
Will I have access to all the information, Ashley, that I can put together this information?
Yes, you can request the records. And yes, you would have access to the records.
Perfect. Then I will do that and I will bring it back to council on the breakdown of this, and then I can have Gloria do a peer review for accuracy, because I don't like misinformation. I like factual stuff.
You can let us know what you find. And if there are serious concerns, please, let's talk about it and figure out what we can do.
Do we have a general consensus that you guys are good with that?
Well, we're asked to approve the expenses at the end of the meeting. And the list I go through, there, you know, we've got over $200,000 in professional services. That's always been a gray one for me.
Right.
And I don't know what is that attorneys only, or is that, you know? So that needs to be broken out. We just need more detail. I guess maybe it's
You want to
no.
work on this project with me possibly?
So I can run the detail reports for professional services, and then you can come back to me with what you want to look at. So it'll tell you who we paid and where it was charged to.
Ashley, do you have
We can
any
start with that.
do you have any additional advice on how to head down that path? Because I certainly will dig in. We all know what kind of rabbit holes I like to jump down for research.
I don't have any additional advice, but happy to meet with Gloria and John also to provide them some guidance for how to present the information uh in the categories that I just laid out.
Okay, I think that that is a good plan going forward. Okay. And thank you for the categories, Ashley. That's already helpful. Then we have an update on nuisance fee ordinance in light of stabbing that occurred at Broadleaf. Just to put this back on your radar, I had already done a draft ordinance, I think, for the nuisance fee. We had talked about, based on my recollection, having something around June that we could look at. Granted, a stabbing is like, it happened, it was a big deal. We had a citizen hero, it sounds like, that stepped up and, was helping until authorities got there. And hopefully this gentleman that got stabbed is going to be okay. But, do we have an update? Are we still target for June on this nuisance fee?
So the chronic nuisance or the nuisance fee ordinance is primarily an ordinance that the police department would present, and I could work with them on reviewing it. In my understanding, I believe you provided a draft ordinance from research that you've done, Mayor, and for the city to take a look at. I'm available to work with the police department on that, and I will I can check with the chief of police. I know he also had started doing some research on this issue. So it's April. You have a couple months to do that. Seems possible. I know that people are busy though.
Yeah, I'll take a stab, and if John, if you're available, maybe you and I meet with the chief to see where we're at with that, if you're good with that, and then we can report back to you, Ashley, where we're at.
Okay.
Does that work?
Yep.
Okay.
Include EMTs in that too?
What do you mean?
Fire districts.
I'm kind of curious, how would they assess the fee?
Yeah, they're separate.
They're separate, so I don't know.
I can handle that one.
Okay.
Maybe after we get something
Okay,
going, we
good
can,
point, Amber.
we can get
Okay.
sit down with them and talk
Yeah.
about, yeah.
Okay.
So let's work through this and get some clarity on what you want from me. I'll take it to Chief Smythe.
How about this? Why don't we pair together on this with Chief Smith? So you're already part of the conversation.
Sure.
And then where we're at with the ordinance,
address.
John. And then we'll go back to Ashley. That work? Okay.
It seems like this has come up a couple years now and it always is mentioned and then nothing happens. So it would be nice to
Yes.
get it done.
Very good point. I was talking to Chief Smith about that this afternoon. I think it's a good idea to keep moving forward.
Would the fees go into the general fund?
They would. I
Yeah.
think, yeah.
Yeah, that's
they would.
what
Gloria,
revenue generated.
Gloria, they'd go into the general fund, right? It's not just like it's not like a punishment tool necessarily, but it's like, it also is a management tool. Like I've had property managers reach out where they've had habitual issues with their tenants, and they would also like to know that these things are occurring under their purview that are not in their purview. They can't see what's going on. So
It's documentation of
Yeah.
what's going on that needs to be provided
Yeah.
in court.
yeah, and I think at one point I heard Chief Smith say that it also helps, like if there is a serious issue with the tenant that during the court proceedings and stuff, it helps with it. But it also, I mean, there's certain cities that I recall that don't have any tolerance. It's like 150, 250, and 450 a third call. Like it's for chronic use. So. Okay, Ashley, so I think we have a plan with that one. Counselor Gunderson, myself, and city administrator will work on getting the ordinance tightened up with the chief, and then we'll come back to you for the final legal review on it.
Okay. Great.
All right, next thing, discussion holding council meetings once a month. So there, it has been brought up to have council, did you want to take this one or me? Me.
Yeah, just looking at all measures to save cost savings, having the attorneys here, all the prep that goes into a meeting, all the prep that goes after the meeting, recording. Yeah. I know, at least me, it's a full day of time by the time I'm preparing for meetings and debriefing and. Yes, but. Kathy wants to add anything?
Yeah, it just would save a lot of time, staff time and resources, not having to do, you know, basically 4 packets a month, plus if we have another special meeting or a public hearing. And I think that since we already have some things scheduled for the 3rd Wednesday of the month, that we should, if you go to 1 meeting a month or 1 set of meetings a month, if you would choose the 3rd Wednesday, I think that would be the best day. The other thing that I would like to recommend is that we go to 1 o'clock, because the time that it takes for in between the meetings is going to create a bigger agenda. And so I think that we're gonna need more time. So it'd just be once a month that if we would have, you know, a 1 o'clock meeting.
So that was my concern. If you think if we move it back to 1 o'clock, we'd be able to get it all done in one meeting.
Yeah.
through the month. Okay. Anything else we could take care of, but it'd be a special session? If anything came up?
I know when we brought this up a year and a half ago, that it wasn't feasible, so now it's doable.
What's that?
We talked about this about a year and a half ago, having 1 meeting a month, and it wasn't recommended, but you're confident that it can.
It's different circumstances now. Resources wise, I think it's the best solution. Not only for staff, but for legal counsel. I think that's probably an area where we can reduce expenses. But it makes for a very long day, because you're gonna be having longer meetings.
Counselor Sundin, are you referring back to when I had brought that up when I first came on board? So based on my recollection, what my proposal was still every other week, but it was having the one, like the first Wednesday, having a work session, because I spend so much time going through the packet that I just felt like it would give me more time. And so I thought that we'd be better prepared. So it still was, if I recall it correctly, every other week, it was just alternating. So now it would just be once a month with the work session. And that's why I believe I recall that Kathy was saying that it wouldn't save them any time, because they were still doing the work session packet, and then the 3rd Wednesday doing the regular session. Do you recall it that way?
Yeah. But we're still doing those things. It's just consolidated.
Right, it's still not having one every other Wednesday, or the 1st and 3rd Wednesday, it's just one.
I think I would be fine with once a month, but due to my employment, I am not going to be able to accommodate 1 o'clock, so I would be late.
That would be my concern too. I have special arrangements with my job to get here early
Yeah.
at 3. I couldn't do 1.
It would be too soon. I wouldn't be able to give them enough notice to change my whole schedule.
Would you Zoom? Yeah, I was gonna say.
What?
Can you Zoom?
No, I'm still, I would be at work. I would be on my company time.
I have classes during that time.
So you guys get we get the council packets early. Could it just, is there a way that you could not show up until the 3 o'clock one, review the packet? If you had any questions, email.
If there's any discussion things, Brandon and I wouldn't be a part of it.
Can we set it aside, like later on in the afternoon, have a special segment for any discussion items?
I mean, that's really for the majority of the council to decide, so.
But you're part of it too, so we need to be included.
I personally don't think I would like that to happen, because I don't want to have to try to play catch up constantly with what's going on. I would like to see maybe during this time period, we just shorten up the agendas for city council meetings, because do we need to have quarterly reports from city departments on here? Maybe we shorten it up during this time period.
What is the earliest? How about we start at the earliest week? Let's work backwards. What is the earliest that the council could get here? Because I feel like we are a council, we are up here united, and we need to be up here as much as possible together so that we can have these public conversations.
So right now it's set up for me at 3 p.m.
Good for me.
The only drawback with that is that, for us that stay in the executive sessions, we can go right up to and it will happen. We will go right up to the 7 o'clock meeting. That will get delayed, then we'll be late.
Question, is there an opportunity to not do an executive session during the council meeting, and that could be another time during the month that it's its own standalone.
And it could be Zoom
And
if it needs to,
Right.
cut back on a staff
we-
time because it's just the council and, litigation or, so.
is that an opportunity? We don't do executive sessions on council days, that it's some other time throughout the month.
I'll let Ashley weigh in on that, and John, I really don't have any say on it.
It's convenient. You could do them at the evening meetings too. Executive sessions.
We don't have enough time. Like, as of now, I'm so long-winded. We don't have enough time. Like, let's just be honest,
Own
like,
it, own it.
yeah, I am. I'm long-winded. This is an opportunity to,
I like the idea of separating out the executive session.
The other thing you could not do is visitor comments during, let's say, the work session, and just have them at night.
as much as I don't like sometimes the thing that people say, but I just feel like I'm not gonna be for not having a public comment. I mean, as much
But
as.
you would have one instead of two.
I know, but
That's
I
still
guess-
offering public.
And so a lot of it is repeat.
I realize that, and I know I'm usually the target of it, and even at that, I feel like I would hate that opportunity, me personally, to take that away from citizens, but.
Well, then maybe we limit the time in total to 15 minutes. So that's however certain many people get 3 minutes, and that's it. Once we're at 15 minutes, no one else in the room can speak.
I really like executive sessions on a different day. That makes the
I
day
think
so
so too,
long.
but I don't know if that'll be enough. Right? Is that what we're thinking?
We're sometimes in there for like 2 hours, though.
I know.
Offhand, do you know, Kathy, are there other cities that you know of that do once a month? And how do they make it work?
There's a lot of cities that only do one meeting a month, not a.
So
work
just
session.
looking, before when I looked at this, there's a lot of cities that don't have work sessions or maybe a quarterly work session. Our work sessions are very long. They go a lot longer than our regular meetings. So is there something that we could change how we're
Yes.
doing it here to?
Right now, we don't have a city manager. In cities that have city managers, the city manager makes a lot of decisions with regards to like signing a contract and doing things like that. Here, we funnel almost everything through the council, which I personally, I think that's great because you guys get to be informed in a more intimate way, but maybe we could inform you in a different way. That's a council governing.
Man, I like to see what's going on. That's hard. I mean, when we're out there and people are asking us questions, I like as much information as absolutely positive, but I don't.
Could we just try separating out the executive session first and see if that works?
And I can try not to be as long-winded. You can make a concerted effort to not be as long-winded. So I can go back to also maybe just my questions and emailing those over and getting the answers. Generally, I like to ask them out loud so that everybody can hear what my questions are. Maybe that's something. What'd you say?
You said you're already long-winded.
Even their explanation's long.
No, I can't help it. It's what I do for a living.
It'd be nice too to not have to have an executive session all the time. It used to not be every meeting we would have one. It was every now and then, but now it's every time. So it would be nice if we could get back to that.
We stop having lawsuits. Yeah. That's that.
If it was my preference, I would just like to have the executive session on a different separate day. Makes more sense.
It's the consensus up here for council.
Involvement, so we don't need to, so just have it.
I think it'll cut at least an hour.
So have to make ourselves available.
Yeah. Ashley, is there any reason or rationale at all that we can't do a separate meeting for executive session?
And possibly even Zoom.
Right.
That works. There is no requirement to have the executive session on the same day as the city council meeting. And we'll know in advance if it does need to be scheduled, it can be scheduled. But I think not having it scheduled as frequently is a good option. Also, information can be shared through privilege and confidential memos to city council as needed.
Yeah.
John, I know that there's bargaining updates and labor negotiation updates. So those are things to consider also that you discuss in executive session.
Yeah, and they can happen in the same format. If you want it in writing instead, so.
I think we could get it in writing, and then if there's like any of us up here have concerns for it, then we can let you know, and then an executive session can be scheduled for that. But I think that also with the executive sessions, we could be more intentionally deliberate on being more efficient, right?
Yep.
So, and I know for me, because I'd like to do a lot of research, there's a lot of times that we get stuff that is for executive session right before the meeting, and I don't have enough time, honestly, to go through it, and it feels like we spend more time on the executive session trying to digest the information that we got. So maybe this would also help us all getting information as much as possible ahead of time. I think that we came to a consensus for that, so.
So do you want it to be a motion tonight on those things? Okay, so when do you want to start the one meeting a month?
I think we start it next month.
Yeah,
'cause
next
we have
month,
stuff on the
we're already in
18th.
April.
Yeah.
Starting May?
And does everybody have a consensus on like the third to go with Kathy with the public?
Yeah,
The
and I
third?
have all of the Wednesdays blocked out right now, so.
And then we're gonna have to stay at 3 PM because we need to be united as a council. And so we have to stay with that.
In executive sessions, do you want to do that? Have a standing day for that or just whenever we need it?
Feels like,
What about another Wednesday that we would normally have council meeting on? That way, we're not having to like rearrange work schedules.
It'd be nice to not have another day to worry about.
Yeah.
is there ability
I-
to do that on the first Wednesdays of the month? If we actually need to have one, can we do it on the first Wednesdays?
Saying something.
She cut out?
I'm not sure.
She started talking and then she went away.
Ashley?
Oh, I was gonna recommend that you not have an executive session scheduled at all and that we schedule them as needed.
Just make it on a Wednesday.
Yeah, I'd prefer if it was on a Wednesday.
Can we schedule though one for the 1st of May, the first Wednesday though, so that we can actually just like do a complete like recap since we won't have another meeting so that we can get caught up?
You need a recap?
I think it would just, that would be nice if we could do that.
Yeah, I think you can schedule an executive session whenever, and I don't think it just needs to be in a separate motion. Whereas making a motion to have one meeting a month would be part of a motion. And
Yeah,
otherwise, you can work with the city administrator to schedule an executive session on the Wednesday that you're suggesting.
Yeah, that's what I was getting at. I wasn't trying to make a motion. I was just vocalizing up here for my fellow council members that maybe you should have one for the 1st of May since we're going into this transition. Is that a consensus? Okay, we also have a consensus, John, if you're good with it, to do the executive session the first Wednesday in May.
Okay.
All right.
This is somewhat related, but a couple members of our boards and commissions have contacted me with cost savings ideas for commissions. I know we got an email about minutes and things like that. Suzanne, could you maybe take back to the library board and I can take it back to the Parks and Trails Commission? Potentially meeting every other month or meeting quarterly or just see what their thoughts are. That might be option 2.
Wasn't there a conversation on I might be misremembering, but also a conversation about having them do their agendas and doing their own minutes, and then they could meet as much as they want. Am I incorrect on that?
No, we did talk about that. Staff talked about it internally and there are a lot of requirements with regards to public meetings and the city is ultimately responsible for those requirements. So we can't put it on the members of the commission. We are responsible for those things. Reducing the number of meetings they have would be obviously one way to
be helpful.
be helpful. Yeah, it would be.
So if you could ask the library board, Suzanne, and I'll check with Parks and Trails next week and just get their thoughts.
Just keep in mind that we may be lacking in staff it could be that Lisa and I end up having to go to those meetings because we don't have people to go to. So just something to keep in mind.
Tread that tread through there and see what happens.
Okay, do we have anything more on holding council meetings once a month? Anything else that? Okay. John, it's your report, one number 10.
My report. They usually have them all verbal, with the liberty, I always write something down, but I never share it, so I'm
I just read over your shoulder.
sharing it this time, so.
Oh, you had time to write this up and share it with us?
Daytime.
Wow.
Okay.
So, highlights and announcements, you'll see in your mailboxes later this week, a general fund. How the general fund works flyer. It's not a political document in any way. It's something that shows. I'm in front of you here, but. These will go to every address. There'll also be in all the city facilities. And it, talks about how does the general fund work? What does it pay for? Talks about the programs. It also shows, at the city level, where the money goes. It talks about, our property taxes and how we compare with other communities. And it's a really good. There's a lot of information, just a couple pages right here. And then at the back of it, it says by the numbers and it talks about all the services that the general fund provides.
Smokes 315,000 for grants and sponsorship for the rec program. Dang,
Yeah, Shauna punches above her weight. So
amazing.
as do a lot of staff we've really got a great staff.
Wow, that's a lot of money.
Did this also includes postage?
2,000 library items.
Paulson printing, does Paulson printing do that?
Paulson printed it.
Does that include postage or is that on top of that? The cost of that is.
There was a cost. This produces, yeah. Crystal, we produce this internally. It wasn't a production cost, but yeah, mail's mail. So. And we, got the best rate we could, so. Which was actually less than stuffing it in the utility envelopes or something.
Don't need to mail one to my house, so you can take me home.
So
Yeah, that's very.
a lot of work went into this, John. Nice job to you.
I'll go through these things for the, state of the city is scheduled for April 11th at 11 a.m. Mayor and I have been working on some, drafts of agendas and things to organize that meeting. Hope to have a walkthrough before the meeting. Crystal and I went on Kohai, the Keep It Local segment, and talked about the state of the city and just this meeting and just a lot of other things that are going on. Earlier in the week, I went to the closing meeting of the CET, the Economic Development Team. Creating an organization that's been around for 18-20 years and then shutting it down. It's a lot of work in shutting this down and a lot of the grants that they had and reporting requirements and IRS types of activities. And it's not quite as easy just to turn it off. So, but we're doing it. The programs, the grow, the keep it local. Those are all now housed through our partnership with Scappoose to operate those. They've hired Sierra Trask, which ran the program before. And we've been meeting regularly. We need to meet to talk about continuing to do as much as we can. And there's a rebrand to Columbia Business Alliance is what they're desiring to call it, which has a good ring. So one of the things as part of the dissolution of CET is they were also the enterprise zone manager, which is enterprise zone is something that once upon a time lived on my desk. It's been on other people's around the county, then went over to the Columbia Economic Team to administer the tax incentives for businesses that have a qualifying enterprise zone. So if it was over a certain amount, over a certain duration, they can get property tax incentives for a few years. And not a lot of work because right now there's not a lot of big businesses coming requesting to do that, but we need to figure that piece out. So I've been working with Ben over at Scappoose that just created a lot of experience in that realm and every enterprise zone that gets approved needs to be approved by all the zone sponsors, so we have to go to every city. And there's two zones, there's a North Maritime Zone, and then there's the greater, the Columbia County Zone. And so that's something out there. We've retained a gentleman named Art Fish, or CET, that did as part of this dissolution, which recently retired from the state, that was the enterprise zone guy from the state, so we're in pretty good hands. And no city money in that, but announcement that Sherry Ingram, our public works staff person out there that's been here 28 years, is retiring. A lot of long tenured people retiring and moving on to that chapter of their lives, and wish her well. Try to get her in here with some kind of a recognition. Tonight on the agenda is you have ordinance 3323, which, as Jacob talked about, that as far as amending the historic landmarks first reading, so no action there. Resolution 2069, building fees, which Mike shared, that haven't been adjusted since 2017 for most of them. We also have a contract bid for the bull rails on the dock. This is a grant funded project. We did one phase with grant money. They came back with another. They came back, can you use more money to get the rest of this done? And so we put it out to bid, and the bids range from, the bid you see here is a low bid of 71,000 up to 200,000, and most were in that kind of middle sweet spot, about 20 to 140. And we're hoping that's a good sign of what's going to happen with the police department and their subcontractors, that we're seeing really favorable bidding. And
Oregon is dry right now for construction.
yeah,
It is
and we'll get some.
so dry. It's good time.
pricing, so. And it's been about 3 or 4 bids in a row that have been towards the bottom and way below our engineering
It's gonna
estimates.
go hard money on a lot of bids, I'm sure.
It's not on this report, but is on your agenda, is power contract. If you have any questions about that, that's Ahmed was taking the lead on that. I helped him. He negotiated with More Power. We actually shopped them with some other agencies and drove the price down. It's a 3-year commitment. Without increases over the 3 years, so.
Rather than going out for an RFP.
We didn't do an RFP, but we went to some other vendors, kind of brought them in, showed them what we had, and then got some pricing, and it seemed like
How much was the increase from the last contract? To
it's actually less.
So it's less?
Yeah. Reduced it.
Okay.
Yeah. We've gone out to for RFP's sakes before, like auditing, and come back and we get no answers, no responses, not even our auditor that we had before, so that we have to go kind of calling back to them, and then fees are a lot more, so there's some risk in that, so. Especially in a competitive market like IT and auditing services. Project updates in the downtown, you'll see some things torn up. They're MEIs removing the concrete caps. They were not installed to specifications. You see lots of cracks on there. They came in, we refused to accept it. They've taken all of those caps off. They're putting new caps on that meet the spec and put those back on. But as part of doing that, they have to take all the lights, all the signs, all the tackle, and then redo all that. The mortar has to set and dry. You'll see, because of some of the lights, there's been some temporary lights that have caused some noise and caused some lost sleep for some people, but there's also some of the bricks inlaid into the intersections that they're chipping out, replacing, that have come loose. And
Mohammed said we're like 2% left on our punch list. What he said to me, for those items for down here.
the cap work has not been accepted.
Right, but this is punch list items. He said we're like
Right.
2% of the punch list items still.
So,
Those holes they're digging in the middle of the intersection, that's the brick.
they're chipping out the inlaid bricks and resetting them.
That's all it is.
Yeah. And it's a lot of work and takes a lot of people, and it's just because of the traffic, you're doing it live in that intersection. No additional cost to the city, right? It's not coming back on the ratepayers or taxpayers anyway. Police station, we're having our weekly coordination meetings. We've got the project signed and the banners installed on the building. That'll be relocated to the fence. What's the,
I was gonna say, yeah, you can see it really.
yeah. it's-
You can move that,
It would look,
you can move that sign.
it'll be moved and onto the construction fence when,
Okay.
when the demolition comes on. Especially the distance far away, doesn't, yeah, it doesn't look very good. Hopefully it looks bigger on the fence. So all the building permits and are all in, the demolition, the right of way improvements, all the permits are in. We've working with PUD to get some of the long lead items like transformers ordered, so that that's an order by furnished items. So we're work on that. It's been a lot of activity over last week related to the construction there.
Nice job on that. Nice job, Counselor Hubbard, on being the liaison with that too. For the police department. This is a separate fund. We should just make sure we mention that too. This is a separate fund.
The separate source of
I
revenue. Yeah.
know.
The we're having Howard S. Wright, the contractor, is having a pre-bid walkthrough next April 8th at 2 p.m. There'll be see some people wandering around the site out there. It'll be subcontractors kind of evaluating the project.
When is demo set?
We're on track for a June construction start. Hopefully have the groundbreaking in the, I don't know if we have the groundbreaking before the demo or after the demo, but
To July.
get a ceremony and get the golden shovels out, that kind of
Right,
thing.
Brendan? Let's make it a big party.
Romano, we're continuing work with Romano and the logistics, the development strategies. We're trying to find pathway that's going to be mutually beneficial to their cost of development. I think a lot of agreement in the design and commitment to build design. We're just trying to figure out how to do it and in a way that works for everybody. We did do,
Were you dealing with, I mean, Romano and attorneys?
most of it's not, but then it's a little bit with attorneys, but not much.
Fill me in on some of that as it goes along.
Sure. Yeah.
You guys are the liaisons for this, right? Everyone understand?
I mean,
Yeah, and this is all happening kind of
a lot of this, I'm left out of the loop, so I'm
Can you
just
make
asking to
these
be
not-
right in the loop.
Yeah.
Please make sure that our two counselors are highly engaged in all of the dynamics of this project. Please.
Absolutely. The letter of intent, your recent extension extends it to the end of May, so that giving us time to kind of work through all these issues. Wait, it's much, it's before that, but other projects, the transportation system plan, this is a ESP's, the state TGM, Transportation Growth Management funded project. About a $300,000 project. It's gonna take about 18 months. And it's all grant from the state. We had our kickoff meeting. Contract, the consultant team it's the money that actually doesn't touch the city. It goes from the state to the consultants, but we're all at the table and there'll be technical advisory groups and committees and things of that nature. To talk about our transportation plan, which is pretty out of date, and look forward to getting that updated. The reservoir project, it's advancing. We had what's called a one-stop meeting through Business Oregon, bring all of the state and federal funders around. Used to be around a great big table in Salem, but now they do it virtually. And it USDA and HUD and then also there's private lenders as well that can do bond issuance and things like that. A lot of the state and federal programs have caps about how much they go up to. 10 million is like the limit, and then you have to get a waiver or another loan, and sometimes that will federalize a project and drive drive that entire cost of the project up. So you evaluate that. So they work through a whole bunch of different scenarios to try to get you set up to have the lowest possible or the best possible outcomes as far as cost and efficiency. Sewer capacity project this project was funded with community development block grants. We're also looking at that for the reservoir project to do the design phase. It's 2.5 million. That cycle opens up here in May, I believe, and we will be submitting for funding for that to try to, every dollar we bring in lowers that rate cost. So they were trying to keep the rates low and do these projects with as much outside money. Federal delegations chipping in money here, with continue to pick away at those. There's a water line project on Railroad Avenue it's either complete or near complete. It was last week, it was looking pretty close. The PGE substation projects kind of got a breath of life back into it. We're we committed to the funding. We're working with PGE. We're working on transmission studies and site, and hopefully to get that going. And we have regularly scheduled meetings. And we learned of some new opportunities at the business park as far as getting infrastructure to advance, creating economic development opportunities. And one of the constraints in phase one, which is the initial Castro Road, when you drive down there, is that there's no public sewer. All the sewer, sanitary sewer, only sanitary sewer is, well, there's a big main that transacts if there's no service to it. So state has money to do planning, build a sewer line, lift station kind of scenario. They also have money to do streets too. So we're looking at
To improve Castor Road?
Improve Castor Road, yeah. So
That's where the power line would come in, Pete?
that is most probable alignment, I'll say that.
Yeah. So
There's one main line that runs down there.
we essentially eliminate the secondary road that was built in there.
That's what the industrial park plan contemplates. Rather than have two roads close together, you'd have one main road that served properties on both sides.
Yeah.
It's the right way to do structure and development rather than doing one-sided.
And these things are gonna play into potentially a revenue generator if we look at the RV park.
Yeah, absolutely. Either
We need to start making money.
RV or other businesses that want to come. Yeah, one of the benefits of buying the mills, the city has control over that. We can choices and have good opportunities for people to come. And decide whether we want to lease it or sell it or whatever it takes to make it work. I talked about the dock rails, the Arcadia's going well. They're going to be in here tomorrow to talk about some kind of wastewater permitting, final transfers that we've, everything's 99%. They're telling us a few more weeks before they're going to be firing up and making paper. So you're seeing that. Our ODOT Community Pathways Project. That's a project that we took a couple wax at it. That's not very professional, but we submitted several times to get this project. And that's basically creating a motorized trail from St. Helens to Scappoose to connect to the Crown Z system, which connects to the banks systems. Pretty amazing thing. Long term, this will be a 20-year project probably, but it doesn't begin unless it starts. And so we were awarded the funding. We've all committed the matching funds, which is not very much.
Did you say 20 years?
And these urban trails get built, they're long leads, right? But you don't start unless you starts with the first step.
Wow.
And it's been in our parks and trails plan for a long time. It's just basically an arrow that points to Scappoose, connect to Scappoose. And this is some funding that will help advance that. But project got paused for some reason, and we're questioning why that got paused. It was awarded and stopped, and so we were having some communications cutting back, going again. So, you want to keep on? Yeah.
Did a lot of work, John.
Yeah. I mentioned that we've had success with Merkley and Wyden's office and Suzanne Bonamici. The Business Alliance, I mentioned the continuing to meet with Port and PUD on and Scappoose and at a county level. Every once month we meet out there to talk about economic development opportunities as a group. The Parks Commission is working on their master plan updates. They had a pretty good list last meeting, but that'll just work for the day. I submitted League of Oregon Cities Award nomination for good governance and excellence. This is something, we won a good governance award for our community engagement efforts around the waterfront. The planning part of it back in 2014. And it's been quite a few years since then, and now we have all the construction. And this project, when we talk about it, people that come and visit it are very impressed about the work that the city's done and the execution of the project as far as governance and working with our downtown businesses and all the strategy and outreach that went into that is part of that application. So. Oregon Parks and Recs Association came on March 19th after our last meeting and was blown away by the accomplishments we've had down here. Very good time. Looking forward to coming back. So I'm sitting on the League of Oregon Cities Wastewater and Wastewater Policy Committee. State advises the league and their priorities. That's going well. There's a lot there. There's an Oregon municipal policy layer to that talks about making recommendations to the state, to the legislature to work through that. Met with Redway earlier in the week to go through their budgets. And a lot better aligned to have the financial report to share very soon. So. Mentioned the Business Oregon, the water taxi. I did a draft RFP. It's over to Ashley for review. At the same time, also working with the broker to try to get some numbers on what that looks like. A little bit of complication if we're going to put RFP to lease the boat and also sell it, and we're trying to find somebody that will work in that world. So. And then we've talked enough about the budget and operations and service levels, but that completes my report.
Nice. I like this printout, by the way. That's really helpful. Because I like to read things.
Gotta be in advance in the future.
What's this picture on the back?
Yeah.
That's our
Tony.
Rilla. Or pop-up art down on the waterfront there.
It's down there right now?
Yeah.
I know that.
Oh,
We're not advertising it, but it's
I was.
I had no idea.
there's nothing illegal about it, but it's
There's nothing illegal about it? Oh, so somebody just randomly put it up there?
That's Antonio from the dock. She did that.
She, during Halloween Town, she made a portable toilet into the booth, the phone booth. She was charging people to go in it and people were paying. I was like, wow, you are creative. Yeah, I was super impressed.
Is there anything else from council that you need to discuss? Okay, so following the conclusion of this council work session, an executive session is scheduled to take place, discuss ORS 1926602P to conduct deliberations with persons appointed to carry out labor negotiations, ORS 1926602P to conduct deliberations with persons designated by the governing bodies to negotiate real property transactions, ORS 1926602F to consider information or records that are exempt by law from public record or public inspection, ORS 1926602H to consult with legal counsel concerning the legal rights and duties of a public body with regard to current litigation or litigation likely to be filed. Authorized representatives of the news media, staff, or any other persons as approved shall be allowed to attend the executive session. All other members of the audience are asked to leave the council chambers. And with that, this meeting is adjourned.
This mine?
Yeah, I borrowed this.
It's like, where did it go?